Okay, hot summers, hot times in hot cities. I have so many memories. I just remember, I grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania, somewhere in between Minnesota and Birmingham, Alabama. And it was hot and humid every summer. I remember how I looked forward to school vacation. Oh, it would be like being paroled from prison for 3 months. Every year. And it was fine getting out of school in early June. And then came the heat and the humidity. It was not a dry heat. So much of my life is occupied by memories of wilting during those hot, incredibly damp, humid summers. And we devised strategies to minimize the pain and suffering. One thing you could do was, this was in the days, probably younger people will be amazed at this, but I'm sure I can get affidavits from people over 40 or, well, over 50 about the days when, the only places you could go that had air conditioning was either the home of a very rich person, and there weren't too many rich people where I grew up, and if they did, they weren't about to let some little, ruffian like me in. The one place you could go was the movie theater. And in those days they had double features, and they had newsreels, and they had comedy shorts, and they had cartoons ad nauseum and double features. And the price of admission enabled you to spend all day in there if you wished. You could sit through the whole thing twice, or maybe even 3 times a day, which I had been known to do. The price that you paid, though, was when you came out and it was late afternoon, and then you'd get hit by this heat wave. It was like leaving the dark coolness of the movie theater and walking into 90 degrees with humidity of plus 90. It was as if somebody opened a blast furnace when you opened the door and exited from the theater. And then, because the sunlight was so strong, I'd get these incredible headaches. So there was always a price to be paid. Then the relief was only temporary. And then I'd go home for the evening. And of course, no air conditioners, but we had 2 fans. And my father was a very logical, scientifically inclined person. Not that he did science, but he always believed that whatever most people thought was an obvious fallacy and misconception, and what he thought was right was absolutely fundamentally correct and right and moral for us and all people everywhere. So he didn't like it if we took the big box fan, we opened the door, the front door, and we do this at night because there was no crime then. Maybe there was like domestic crime that nobody ever talked about, I don't know. Or there were crimes of the mind or something. Or certain people harbored bad, dark thoughts. But there was practically no like street crime or no burglaries or robberies. So you could leave your door unlocked all night, you could leave the door open. Maybe if you were a little bit paranoid, you might put the hook on the screen door on, that's about it. So you could put this big box fan right in front of the door once the sun had gone down, and we're all in there watching TV. But my dad said it made no sense to have the fan blowing on you. You had to first suck out all the bad, dank, hot air, so you had to reverse the fan. And it was counterintuitive, and my dad insisted that was correct. And then you have the other fan turn the other way, so you blow the cool air. And it actually made no sense at all, and it still doesn't. Even as I'm telling it, it makes no sense. But he insisted. No, okay, now it's time to turn around the fan, and then turn the other fan around the other way. And I don't know. And then you had the basic conflict. So you have these really primitive fans, and they're loud, and then you're trying to watch TV, and you had really inferior TVs with poor speaker systems. And the volume could only, that's it, you could turn it up to 10. There was no 11, And so you couldn't hear the TV. But if you turned the fan down, then you sweltered. So someone would turn the fan down because they couldn't hear the TV, then one of us would get back up and say, but it's too hot, and turn it back up, and the other person would go, and this would go back and forth and back and forth. And so this is how I spent my summer, sweltering. And then I started longing for fall and even winter. And the thing was, if you went to the movie theater, which in the midst, say in July, at a night like this, or a day like this, so you didn't want to go watch a movie set in the desert, or in a tropical island, or in the jungle. So you want to go see a movie set in Alaska or the North Pole or something, and then still to this day, before air conditioners became abundant, cheap, I'd go to the movie theater, and I'd say, well, okay, I just can't stand the heat anymore. So maybe I'd go to a restaurant and have some dinner, but you can't sit at a restaurant for 3 hours after you've had like a sandwich and a glass of water. They get kind of irritated. So then I have to, so I'd go to a movie theater. And my only criterion, and I count myself as kind of a film snob. I've been a movie addict all my life. But no longer did this get 4 stars? Did this get a thumbs up from Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel? Did the critics like it? It would be, how long is it? So I can take refuge, in 3 hours and 15 minutes. So it's a stupid movie, but okay, but that doesn't matter. So, so much was predicated upon beating the heat. And now that I have air conditioning, it's made life a whole lot easier. But it's really hard to come up with a good, entertaining story about your air conditioner. So thank you.